Welcome back to Story Hustler, Murder Mayhem PTSD. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Mike.
And we're back stateside.
Here we are, back in the studio.
For the foreseeable future.
Can you believe that we had a little rock and roll trip across Europe? Some of the major capitals. Our last episode, The Trip.
Is like a vlog, kind of different style than what we usually
do. Talking about...
A break from the crime.
You got finished, wrapped up your master's degree, and finished playing ball over at Newcastle, and
that was the last episode. We don't need to dive into.
We don't go back into where we sort of got shocked into our reality. Sort of got rocked within the last seems 24 hours when suddenly this new docudrama on Peacock.
Where's
dropped.
Baby Gabriel?
Yeah, and dun. I'm glad we watched that with great interest.
It was very well done. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but we wanted to give our review. It's a 3-part series on Peacock, if you haven't seen it, called Where's Baby Gabriel? And it's about a case that happened here in Arizona, close to home, in Tempe, and it happened in 2009. And a baby, 8-month-old, adorable little boy went missing and was kind of just used as a pawn by his mom.
Yeah,
so,
and
very sad story.
The people who live in Arizona or are familiar with this story will immediately connect and remember.
And it's ongoing, which is why it's so pertinent. This is an ongoing case. He's still not been found. There's a body has not been found, so there's still hope that he's out there.
When we're getting, we're just jumping in and starting to chop this up, and we had some sort of a hand in some of this. The young fella who put it together, Thomas Leader, I think he's a British guy, approached me many months ago, and
when you looked like Santa Claus.
Thank you.
Big old beard.
Cause I knew that we were going to get onto that topic somewhere.
It had to be said. It had to be said.
Yeah. So anyhow, in one of my
you're a public figure. You put yourself out there. It's not my fault.
In one of my many manifestations, anyhow, this guy approached me and wanted to do an interview on Baby Gabriel. I get calls from producers for shows like that with some regularity, as you know. And I've sort of decided I can do less talking. But this guy, and I've turned many of them down recently, but this guy impressed me with his sincerity. And I've said this now a couple of times, but really the reason I wanted to talk to this guy is because Thomas Leader, the man who produced Where is Baby Gabriel for Peacock, I was impressed from the moment I met him that he really had a sincerity about his mission and what he was trying to accomplish with this thing, and it impressed me. And we're going to have to sort of fill in some of the details for people who don't know the story, but you have this child who vanished 14 years ago, and it's still not clear.
And it garnered
it
garnered national attention. It was kind of like one of those Casey Anthony,
for people
Madeleine McCann. That's probably the best one to describe it to. That's still an ongoing case.
Anthony, it's still an ongoing case of a missing child. And Anthony, where you have a mother who may, I think in Casey Anthony, it's pretty clear that mom killed the child.
You'd think that'd be clear, but she's roaming free.
We get off
digress.
on that. We go off that branch. But the similarity certainly between the story of missing Baby Gabriel and the
other crimes of the past.
And the child in Florida. But it started 14 years ago. But this producer, Thomas Leader, wanted to go back and talk to everybody, because there still is not an answer to what the main, where is Baby Gabriel? I was
very impressed with how many people were interviewed. Just
stunning.
The array of people that he got, from officers to web sleuths, like people that, kind of were this brand new type of investigators.
Which I guess is really part of the food chain now, and the woman provided some fairly interesting insights. And
the family of Logan, and it was very, and Tammy Smith, that one.
Well, Tammy, you see, now I'm real interested in. I was there, and appeared in this documentary. So I have some knowledge of this.
Yeah.
You were a kid when all
was
this
9.
went down, so you didn't really know what, that's not what I was telling you in great detail.
This was not part of family dinner conversation.
Not, I'm not until you got a little older or you asked specifically about a case. But all that to say, you approached it with fairly fresh eyes. People who are going to watch this for the first time on Peacock, and they should. It's terrific.
I didn't know too much about this case.
So,
I thought, first of all, the documentary was just very well done. Stylistic choices made. I really liked it personally.
Yeah.
So aside from that, like I said, just he did his due diligence, it seemed, with all the people and all the players involved. It's a very complicated situation, manipulative pieces. I mean, it's a crazy story. It's a very sad story. But yeah, I think it was just well done. You got your little role in it, your very dramatic voice.
Well, I was happy because I think that this is what, unlike a lot of the people who come to me about these stories now, it's usually some sort of retrospective look on some story in the past.
Yeah.
Richard Ramirez.
Yeah.
Or, to the extent.
There's been a conclusion.
There's been a conclusion,
seems.
and so you go and talk about something like that as a historic sort of entity. This is very much an active case.
Yeah.
And I think in light of the dropping of this documentary, a lot of people are going to get fired up on this thing.
Yeah.
And
what if you told me that the guy who made it, he said, basically the reason he wanted to tell the story again is because, it is still an active case, and the only way to get it out there is to keep telling it.
And with eyeballs on the story. And there's now, it's been interesting because I definitely learned some things that I didn't know from that documentary, and I was sort of there in the moment, so I felt like I was pretty well versed. But you're right. I was very impressed with how they got everybody to talk. With, of course, the glaring exception of the one person who really needs to talk and may never talk, which is Elizabeth Johnson.
Yes.
Didn't get her, but
I feel like we should probably dive into the story at this point before we get too much in the weeds on our reaction.
Yeah, but it was a positive reaction to the thing. But back in 2009 is when the world, just at the end of the year in December, is when the world first got some sort of knowledge about this story. The backstory is you had two young people, fairly young, got together and they had a child.
Within a few months of knowing each other.
Well, no, they had barely known each other over
dating.
course of time. But yeah,
they hadn't been together super long. They get pregnant and
they have the child. Yeah.
And it's a toxic relationship. There's a lot of fighting and there's a lot of neglect on the part of the mother, Elizabeth.
It certainly seems like it. So they get in trouble, and the baby becomes an issue. And Elizabeth, the mother, decides that to take matters into her own hands, while the father, Logan, is really making, I think, a good faith effort to try to establish his rights, to do the right thing with the child. Again,
and it was back at a time when the fathers really didn't have a right to the child. It often favored the mother in the custody battles in court.
Right,
so it was definitely a difficult time. But he did get custody. When this whole issue began, and he realized that the child was missing.
And Elizabeth says now she wants to adopt the child away, and he says no, and she runs into a very sort of colorful character in this drama, a woman named Tammy Smith, who we will talk a little bit about. Yes. And it goes to hell in a handbasket, and the bottom line is Elizabeth absconds with the child when Logan tries to pick him up for a visitation over Christmas, and absconds to Texas.
San Antonio.
And everything, one of the interesting facets of that story is you really get, as they laid it out, and you look at her journey to San Antonio, that trajectory was not accidental.
No.
Everything about it. And they do establish the
recordings. They have such incredible recordings that they got of phone calls between Elizabeth. It talks about this whole well-planned out.
Yeah. And again, the fellow Thomas did his work and collected all of the because there's a lot of audio that is very telling. as this young
And it's just such a detailed plan of just how they were going to do this. And
well, and that all argues, again, and we're all over the place, but the trip itself, going to the hotel in San Antonio, Texas, of all places, that clearly everybody except the cops seemed to acknowledge as sort of a hotbed for illegal
black market adoption, child adoptions.
Apparently that sort of is an industry in San Antonio, and the hotel she ended up.
That's the capital of this, and so yeah.
Well, a lot of people are saying that was where it all went down. So the fact that she travels, somebody was saying in the documentary, she wanted to kill the child. She could have done it here.
Yeah.
If she wanted to drive east, she could have gone to Safford or to Albuquerque or to El Paso.
But she drove specifically to San Antonio.
Way to San Antonio and went to a hotel that allegedly
is notorious for this.
We had one of the sleuth detectives called nefarious, sort of known for nefarious activity.
Yeah.
And so she's
definitely points to one conclusion.
None of that's an accident,
but
clearly. And but she makes the
phone call to Logan, the father from Texas, after this whole deal went down, and she tells Logan that she suffocated the baby, put him in his diaper bag, threw him in a dumpster, and now he's probably somewhere in the landfill.
Yeah, and
she then goes on to blame him about how he ruined her life and he made her do it and it's all his fault. And what was fascinating was, we noted this, just on that phone call, I mean, this man is getting some of the worst news you could possibly get as a parent, I feel like. And he just remains calm. He never loses his cool, and he handles the situation in such a way that, I mean, if he had lost his, shit on her, she probably would have hung up. And he managed to keep his cool, but coax more and more information out of her.
To the extent he could.
She was giving like a manifesto in the beginning, kind of like these very haunting statements about being a ghost and she doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's all his fault.
And then he slowly coaxes out where she is, and
I think, and Logan would never wanted to be in this position, and I don't think he is particularly. He's a charming guy, but I don't think he wants to be out as the poster guy for this missing children case. No. But it is a role that was thrust on him, and he's done it with. I watched him now throughout this ordeal, and was always moved by his strength. And, I look at stories as a father, sort of what was the role of the father in the story. And I admire him a great deal. Very young man, and when I said, I said in the documentary, this is the kind of case that I'll remember till the day I die. And part of that is remembering the look in Logan's eyes. Every time he would come out of court, usually he was there with his father, Frank, and they'd come out of court when they were trying Elizabeth and Tammy Smith, and you could just asking him how he was doing, even if he was going to give me a soundbite or not, just asking, and I could just see the pain, the depth of the pain in his eyes every time we spoke to him, and seeing the documentary, I can still sort of see that in his eyes. He's I think a soft-spoken fella who has had all of this horrible story thrust upon him, and I just watching him throughout, I always thought he was quite dignified in handling it, and on the telephone, he seemed so level-headed, like a guy who'd basically dealt with this volatile character role, and so you feel like it's that guy trying to defuse a bomb as the clock's ticking, because she's just ready for her to just blow up, and he tries to keep his cool.
But I guess, they did mention that she had said that she had killed the baby once before, like made this threat to him. So
right.
And
she's a fascinating story too, and this is in no way to exonerate anybody, but the older I've gotten, I sort of, you sort of want to look at the backstory. How did somebody get to?
All these people have a backstory. It seems like they were abused, and this does not excuse any behavior whatsoever. Not to do that in any way, shape, or form.
That's for sure. But I think it helps inform your thinking about the story when you understand sort of the damage that can be,
and the psychological
and
evolution
generational
of these,
damage that can be. she'd been in foster care and had apparently a real rough childhood, and clearly was ill-equipped.
And she said she didn't even want children at the beginning.
Which is is apparently changed now because she has a new child
and changed
and
her
a
name.
new life and have we just filled in the details? Not a bit. We've just been giving our opinions.
I mean, but I don't want to fully fill in the details
No,
because I do
either.
feel like I want people to watch this. It is an ongoing case and it's an important one. I mean, it's important like everything else is ongoing.
Who did you find more interesting? The cop talking in behalf of San Antonio, which has taken a lot of criticism about its dealing in this case, and it is perhaps rightfully so. But
I thought it was.
He was in a tough position defending. The allegation is that the San Antonio police basically got tunnel vision. As soon as they heard her confession about this, they decided there's no other way, and their homicides. And I think they make a case that they may well have gotten tunnel vision and sort of gotten on blinders.
That is a weird thing to confess.
Oh, there's no question,
she did exhibit other, behaviors that would point to the fact that she might be capable of doing that to her child.
Yeah,
so
no question about it.
I don't think that they're completely to blame for thinking, but I do think what was an interesting fact is that they did give so much time to both sides. Like, it really left me conflicted with how to feel. And I think at the end of the day, everyone was like, some days I think there's hope that he's still out there, and some days I'm just completely convinced that he's gone.
Logan says something like that.
A lot of people
on any given day.
That's what they felt like.
And
And there's evidence for both. Like, there is.
Yeah. Well,
which is the sad thing.
The one piece of evidence is the confession.
And that's a strong piece of evidence.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And a shocking piece of evidence. This is the kind of thing that you can't ignore. But it was interesting to see because on a number of occasions I've seen police organizations just throw wild resources and human power at a landfill search. And that's in San Antonio after this claim that she'd thrown the baby's body in the trash. San Antonio cops went out and executed this search of a landfill.
They did a few landfills, didn't they?
Well, they did that one in San Antonio, but I have now covered and witnessed a very famous search for a woman who was allegedly killed by her children and thrown in the trash named Cookie Jacobson, also in Tempe, 25 years ago. And the Phoenix police Tempe police, went and expended extraordinary time and resources to do the same kind of thing. Came up with zip. Phoenix did it here
it's so tedious. That is
just scraping through
and going piece by piece through this mountain of trash. And they talked about how they could only dig for 15 minutes at a time because it was such toxic chemicals.
I went out with the guys in Tempe, and we were actually on the landfill in the protective gear with them on several occasions while they were doing it.
Was it different from what she explained? Like, did you?
No. You
have to tape your boots so that no air can get in through the
clean suits. And it just stunk to high heaven. And all that to say, that was just a real footnote in the story. They found nothing after this exhaustive search of the landfill. So no evidence of the child's body, or
they haven't found a body. There's no crime,
or even an indication of a murder, other than her confession. And again, I think everything about the journey and everything she did after leaving Phoenix points to a trajectory that was planned out.
Yeah, and it seemed to be planned out by Tammy Smith. Well, in part, a lot. I mean, it kind of was both of them together.
Somebody kept calling her a master manipulator, and I think she's very manipulative, young woman. But there was detail and facets to this plan that I don't think Elizabeth was going to pull out of her hat.
No.
Introducing her to some sort of network. And Tammy Smith is such an interesting character, and people will get a taste of her. She's sort of the living example of why I tell you, as soon as somebody starts beating their chest, telling you how religious they are, grab hold of your wallet and grab hold of the children. Because that's the calling card for most con artists. And, and she conned her way into this thing and wanted a piece of the action. She got a very minimal, she wanted the child.
Yeah.
At a very minimal sentence.
At whatever cost.
And both of the women who ended up doing time, Elizabeth, ended up basically confessing to custodial interference.
Like our Heber Jeffs.
Yeah, which is
a case that we're all too familiar with.
Yeah, but I don't want to confuse people now.
No, but same charge.
A lot of the people in at least the cops in Texas wanted to charge her with murder if they could. I
do have a question about that because she did seem to kind of get off with just a slap on the wrist, but the child's gone. Like, maybe he's still out there, but whatever reason, like, she did take him from the father, and like he's gone.
Kidnapping her.
Yeah, like, is there not another charge?
Well,
you can't just get rid of your child. Like, you just can't he can't just be gone and like.
All right, well, but there's also sort of state jurisdictional issues. What happened here in Arizona? She took the child away from the father against his will and crossed state line.
Yeah.
Any violent act, any criminal act in terms of abusing that child physically, all occurred in Texas. So prosecutors here couldn't even talk about that. And it's interesting you brought up.
But it's a black market. Like, it's clearly illegal to do these sort of adoptions. So if you've partaken in adoption.
But do they know that? They don't know that. Who knows? It's a mysterious couple. Maybe they just, this is Elizabeth's story that ultimately she says, no, I didn't kill my child. I took him to this park, again, in this town known for black market adoption, staying in a hotel that apparently is known for black market adoption.
And this was a park that was known for
apparently
sort of
doing it. And again, everybody except the cops seemed to know this, because the cops said, we never found any of these kind of connections, but anybody with any sort of knowledge of the lay of the land.
They said this wasn't a park you just knew about if you're like not
the
aware
hotel
of this.
You wouldn't know about. So again, her path all suggests planning. Yeah. And she, but somebody else was saying maybe that all could have been the case, and it started to fall apart, and she got frustrated. Did the other outcome, suffocated the child? I mean, any of those things are still out there, and this documentary hopefully will shake loose anybody. I mean, as I was saying, we went over to Channel 3 and spoke about this yesterday. They wanted, after it came out, we went over and chatted about the documentary.
I just went over as your bodyguard.
Well, and I'm so grateful for that.
I'm here for you, buddy.
These days, I'm just say that's why you're my bodyguard.
Little man.
Anyhow, so but we went over there, and when I was saying that, one of the things that old detectives are always hoping for is when people who have secrets, they share them.
Yeah.
And then whatever relationship they have with the person they told may change. So, Elizabeth spoke it, and now someone was talking on television about this story and saying, Logan and his family have all done that genetic testing. So and now everybody's doing that 23andMe.
23andMe or like Ancestry, yeah.
So they're plugged up. It plugged into all of that stuff. So if anywhere along this line, this child who may have no idea that he was spirited away at a park,
he does one of these,
and he does one of these, they'll be able to make the connection. But even then, and you start thinking that through. And Logan mentioned this.
That thing about how if he did come home, like he's grown up with a completely different family, a completely different set of siblings and parents.
Again, the sensitivity of Logan, you sort of saw that he had already grappled with that, perchance.
That showed such, I think, strength on his
spiritual depth, I thought, recognizing, wonder if this child went away, no matter, the people who may have them may be bad people for taking them, but if they've given him a good life and made him happy, and he's
he has siblings who love him.
What happens when you have
interfere?
Well, I can't say he can't call trying to reunite with him in any way interfering, but But you know what I mean, and
interjecting in the situation that he's known his whole life.
Yeah, and you could see
whether it's under good circumstances.
Logan talked about that with greater wisdom than we are, but it just impressed me with that he's a sensitive guy.
And on the contrary to that, another interesting thing that was in the documentary was that one detective that we both really liked.
Oh, I think he was an attorney.
That we both really liked.
Yeah.
And he made that really interesting point about how both Tammy and Elizabeth in the situation probably both thought that they were making the best decision for this child.
And may still
to this day think that they are the heroes of this and only had the best interests of him at heart. And like he was just talking about how that's the terrifying part of this story.
Like me, he seemed like he was sort of a man who developed a certain degree of cynicism when it comes to con artists. And I admired. Yeah, I thought he was right on the money. Just saying, the craziness is these two crazy people who clearly did crazy things. Probably both still self-righteous. And Tammy clearly was still. Talking.
Elizabeth thinks she's saving him from a poor situation and can give him a better life than Logan and him can, and she doesn't want him to end up in foster care,
right?
Or Logan and she can in foster care like she did, and
right.
And so she's saving him from the situation. She lied to Tammy about certain situations, it appears, and Tammy hears that this little baby is coming from an awful situation, and this mother is young and confused and has been abused and needs help, and she's rescuing this child from this awful situation. Like, that's what they both think that they were doing in this, and it just shows how manipulation just piles on.
Well, and we all become the stars of our own movie, and we think we're the hero and we're the protagonist and we're the,
What is a terrifying fact about this, though?
Yeah, and that guy, I think he was an attorney, and he was calling it out, just saying, that's the really, insane part of this, that, you get these self-righteous, and certainly in the case of Tammy Smith, these self-righteous, self-anointed crusaders who, just think that they're doing the work of the Almighty, and again, I would count your fingers after you shake hands with them, because they're in it for something.
Yeah. But we've rambled. Yeah. This is a long video. We're going on 28 minutes.
Yeah, all right. Well, then we should do more. I feel like we're just getting warmed up on this. But we would so would you recommend this?
I would. I do think, I want, obviously, word to get out, because if he's still out there, I hope that he comes home or can reunite with his family eventually.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
The more eyes on this story, the better.
Yeah, exactly. And I was pleased to be part of it. I think the producer did a great job, and I would give a large thumbs up.
Yeah.
Because I just think the sincerity and the commitment that I sensed with this guy, Thomas Leader, I saw that in the film.
Yeah.
I wasn't
100%.
He came here and he said, he came to our home and did the interview. And it was a one-man band, came in by himself, didn't give me a lot of the bullshit that producers or whatever.
Just got his work done.
Yeah, well, he was just real earnest about saying, I said, you should talk to these people. Oh, I already have, and these people, because they know it better than I do. And he talked to all the right people. And I thought, okay, this guy is really sincere about this. And then I forgot the project until a couple of days ago when I got heads up, and here it is. And I am very pleasantly surprised how I think thorough and powerful it is. And it brought back a lot of painful old memories. But, at the end of the day, if it gets the word out and it finally answers that question, where's baby Gabriel?
Yeah.
It
was
good.
A success.
So we will definitely be keeping our eyes.
Answers. We want answers.
Yeah, and there's an outfit of ex-FBI guys that are now doing the investigation, because I'm not sure the family has a great deal of faith in the law enforcement, traditional law enforcement. So they're taking tips and
any
we wish them
information
well.
you may have, please help out.
This has allowed me to sort of at least get back in communication with some of these folks and talk to Logan, and been back and forth a little bit with his aunt, Sandy, who's a terrific person, and sort of spearheading this. So we're going to try to stay on top of this.
We'll bring you updates as they come, and hopefully...
But this is 2 summers in a row. I got back-to-back summers. with like 2 big blockbuster
Aren't
documentaries.
you a little hot shot?
Well,
No,
but
I'm
yeah,
just kidding. I'm proud of you.
last summer it was
Keep sweet.
So yeah, hit the big time, and I bet this finds.
Oh, this is great. It should.
And I point that out just because I feel lucky to have been part of these stories.
Yeah.
At points of and I think they're both, whether you're talking about Warren Jeffs, you're trying to talk about finding baby Gabriel. These are both still hot stories that are active today. So I'm pleased to have been part of both of those things because I think they deserve a wider public audience.
And we hope we're doing both those stories justice. So.
Yeah, and we got plans for just a quick preview. We've been talking about Heber Jeffs.
Yeah, we have an update on that. We actually have the video of his trial, his most recent trial hearing. So we're going to drop that, and we're going to give a little intro to that, but we're going to have a separate video where we give our analysis and reactions and kind of discuss what was said. It's pretty interesting, so stay tuned for that.
Just a dropping of the ball by the system. They
made the connection, but we'll get into that later. That's not for this video. This is going on. We digress. Thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Telling me it's time to. We're out of here. Good night, everybody.
Good night.